Hello and welcome to Imagineering, where we help you move up in life instead of just on with it. My wonderful guest today is Hermien Elago. She's a professional speaker. She is a global traveler. She is a wonderful person, and she has a motto where it says that if the career you want doesn't exist, then you need to create it for yourself. And I really just love that. She's very much a content creator with blogs and her new fitness awareness creation projects and the body experience. What's it called? The total
Yeah,
body, the body experience. Sorry,
the
I
body
lost the.
experience. Yeah.
Uh, Hang on. Where is it now? The Namibian body experience. There it is.
Correct.
Okay, I did write it down. Okay,
I'm trying to switch on this light here. Okay.
okay. And she's the founder of the Namibian Body Experience. Hermine, thank you so much for joining this episode of Imagineering. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me. So I just came back from Europe on Wednesday. I had gone to speak at the German Speakers Association convention, and yeah, it was great. But still, I'm good on purpose.
Well, it's always wonderful because we're actually friends. It's not just this interview. We do have
Yeah.
conversations and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
but I was looking into cool people from around the world to sort of help me do this Imagineering series of talks. And one of the very top names that I thought of was Hermien Elago, because I've experienced your keynotes before, and I've always found it so much joy in it, and so much truth. And what I really want to know is, where did you come up with the idea of speaking on vulnerability? Because it comes up a lot when I see you speak, opening yourself up and talking about
Yeah.
vulnerability.
Well, for me personally, I just feel that the best speakers, in my opinion, are the ones who are most authentic and the ones who I feel are most truthful and honest and real and raw, and who aren't afraid to just speak their truth, right? And so for me, vulnerability is not a topic. It is a layer of who I am. It is who I am, and it is what I do, and it's one of my strongest core values. I think my two strongest core values are authenticity and vulnerability, and those two they go hand in hand. You can't separate one from the other. And so basically, where it initially started from is my fitness and weight loss journey. Um, when I decided to take control of my health and just, I wanted to be fitter, stronger, leaner, and I wanted, just to set 80-year-old me up for success. I want to travel the world in a body that's not falling apart when I'm 80, And so obviously, when you embark on something, when you embark on an adventure or a journey or just a new lifestyle, you go and you research and you try and find stories of people who have done it and done it successfully, and so that you can emulate that and just learn from them. So I went onto social media, which is where we generally go for these things. And I was looking on Instagram and Facebook, and all I could see were very perfect transformations and these perfect journeys, and I couldn't relate to anything. So what would happen is I would see these befores and afters, but there wasn't that in between, which is where 98% of the world population lives. You know, there is the before, like, where you start, and there's the after, like when you reach those goals. But we spend very little time at those two spots, and we spend more time on the actual journey and on the actual road to getting there. So I couldn't see the parts where they fell, and I couldn't see the struggle, and I couldn't see I'm a recovering emotional eater, and no one was talking about emotional eating and binge eating and seeking comfort in food. No one was talking about this stuff. So I was like, it's either they don't experience this, and that's fine. But unfortunately, I do. This is my story. I have struggled with my weight my entire life, and these issues have affected every single part of my life. So I was like, okay, since I cannot see a journey or a story, that looks like the one like mine, I'm just going to share mine from that point. So instead of waiting to be lean and to be fit and to have lost weight, I just started sharing from day one, from when I was, overweight and from when I was struggling. And I wasn't sharing with the intention of growing a following or with the intention of eventually taking this message and speaking about it. I was just sharing because I was like, if I can't find a journey that seems real and raw to me, I want to put one out into the world that is real and raw and vulnerable. And that's purely what I was doing. And as I kept going, I would get inboxes from people being like, thank you so much for sharing that because I struggle with emotional eating too. And I didn't even know it was a thing because no one speaks about it. Because if you tell people I struggle with alcohol, they get it and they have empathy for that. Or if you tell people I struggle with drugs, it's almost like those kind of struggles, people have a lot of empathy for. But when you tell people that I have a food addiction, they're like, nah, just stop eating. And
Right, because it's that easy, right? Because addictions work that
yeah,
way. I
because
just stop it. It's like, oh, you're addicted to something. Oh, why didn't you just say so? Why don't you just stop it? It's like, do you know what an addiction is?
Yeah. Or they'll be like, don't be so greedy, So it's almost like it's almost like the one thing that people are like, really like food, like because it unfortunately you don't have to drink alcohol to survive.
You do
You
need
don't
to
have to
eat though to
just
survive, eh? Yeah. Because I've heard this, I've heard that because, and I think because that's the trouble, right? You actually need food to survive. You need to consume it. It's not something you can stop. Just stop eating. No, you can't stop eating. You will die. That's crazy, man. What was
Yeah.
so you tell me, right? What is the worst thing? The transformational journey or the mental journey that you had to go through to actually to keep up with the changes in your life? Because I think as an addiction, the mental strain must be horrible.
Oh no, definitely the mental, definitely the mental. You know what? The body goes where the mind goes. That's purely it. And what people don't understand that with fitness and with weight loss, it is it's here. It's here. It's not even aesthetic. It really isn't. It's overcoming limiting beliefs. It's overcoming, you know, the food addiction for me was just a manifestation of approval addiction and people pleasing that I had struggled with for a very large part. So I needed to deal with those things first in order to be able to deal with the food addiction because the food addiction was just a thing that was pointing to a greater thing in the same vein where alcoholics, it's not their issue isn't with alcohol, their issue is with the issues that cause them to seek out alcohol to numb. So really it's more of a numbing thing and it's the thing that you're numbing that needs to be dealt with. So that is why my journey, especially on social media, I speak a lot more on the mental aspect and on the emotional aspect and not so much the aesthetics because going to the gym is actually not the hard part you think it is. Or, starting to learn better eating habits. That's not the hardest part. The hardest part is overcoming those limiting beliefs, dealing with the real issues, which is for me, in my case, it was approval addiction and people pleasing and self-worth issues. Those are the things I needed to address. And the second that I was able to start working on those, the other stuff came a lot easier.
But now to talk about this, right? Because it's not something that I've ever thought about, right? And I think a lot of people are in exactly the same position. It's not something that you really think about unless you're actually going through it. So trying to raise awareness on something like that, it must be very, very difficult.
It truly is. It really, really is. The first part is that the weight loss and the fitness industry has built its trillions on the quick fix sale. It is get six pack abs in 28 days, have this shake or drink this tea and lose 10 kilos in 3 days. They have built this our desperation, and it feeds off of our weakness, and it feeds off of the fact that human beings in general, we want the fastest way to get to a place. We don't want to take the long route, which would be dealing with the actual stuff and, breaking through our limiting beliefs and everything. So now, because I speak more about overcoming limiting beliefs on your fitness journey and through weight loss, and because I speak more about the fact that you will fall, and the fact that it's not going to happen overnight, and the fact that it is long because you are going to deal with even self-sabotage, and all of that kind of stuff. People are like, not everybody wants to hear that, because hearing it and understanding it and embracing it means it's not going to happen overnight. And that I've been on this journey for 6 years and I am still overcoming. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that it's lifelong. And that is why people keep saying it's a healthy lifestyle, and it's a fitness lifestyle. But no one actually wants to hear that. Most people want the slimming tea and the 28 days to six-pack abs.
They want the happily ever after sort of ending.
They want that.
They want the book to end, the story to end. It's like, okay, I can go back to my own life now and I can stay ignorant because I don't really, because that's the easy part, But you know what? I think now, because I helped a student a while ago on, it was related to, he needed to write an essay on sugar tax, right? And we actually did some research, and it's in everything. Sugar is in absolutely everything, which means, right, the world is built to keep you from being healthy. Which means, of course, then that you have to think, if you actually want to stay healthy, right, and if you have to eat healthy and do all this work, it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. And more importantly than anything else, you're going to have to outthink the world. You're going to have to outthink the status quo, because it's easier to go to KFC and get something, because it's probably going to be cheaper than having a healthy meal at home.
And honestly, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I once watched a documentary on BBC, and it's called The Men Who Made Us Thin. And it speaks about the weight loss industry, and their aim is not to have you permanently lose weight. Their aim is not to have you healthy. Their aim is to keep on selling you short-term fixes so that you keep on coming back.
It's like the credit card scheme.
Exactly.
It's like it just keeps you in enough debt so to continuously pay off the interest, and they make money, but you end up losing all the way.
Exactly. And I think that is why I think that I have resolved to share my story the way that I do, that I have resolved to be vulnerable. And I tell you, Brandt, vulnerability is brave work. It may look easy, but it's basically, you have to empty those proverbial pockets of shame. Because when you fall, because first I have to break my barrier first and be like, if I share with people that I've had a hard time and I've been binge eating and I've gained 5 kilos again, I have to deal with the fact that I automatically have to start with, like, I reflect, and I'm like, yeah, but if I share, they're going to be disappointed. They're going to feel like I'm always messing up. They're going to feel all of these things. But I share through all of that. And that's the first barrier I constantly have to break through is shame. And being vulnerable, it really increases your threshold for shame, because we live in a world where we're constantly thinking, what will people think and what will they say, right? And when you build a speaking career or platforms on transformation, and you go and you gain 5 or 10 kilos and having to share about that, it's brave and it's hard work. But it's important for me, for other people to know that falling isn't fatal, but it is inevitable. You will fall, and just keep showing up despite that. And do not be afraid about going back into the gym after having regained some weight, because it's going back into the gym that's going to get you to your goals. Because as I started my journey with a lot of other people, and what happened is with some of them, they fell off the wagon and they disappeared. To this day, they continue to disappear and they've never come back, because it was that thing of, I had this amazing transformation, then I messed it up, and now I can't go back because people celebrated,
Because
this
it's the shame.
transformation.
It's
Now I have to
the feeling of being
shame.
vulnerable.
Yes, shame will hold you back from reaching your goals. And unfortunately, so that's what happened with a lot of them. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to stay here through all of it. And because of that, I have managed to build a tribe and an entire community, because people love to see somebody who just does not quit and who continues to be resilient and who continues to go back into the arena, even though they're bloodied and beat up and busted, because it goes to show them that, okay, even though it sucks a little bit sometimes, like you just need to keep going. And because of that, I've never gone back to where I started. My journey may be flawed and it may be imperfect and may be broken, but it's continuous.
But there must be days where I want to say fall off the wagon, but I don't know if that's really the
Oh
best
yeah.
way to put it. Must be times when you fall down, right? There must be times when you say, it's like I just need to feed my hunger or whatever it might be.
Mm.
How do you come back from that?
Okay, so yes, there are definitely days, and those days are many, 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 where that happens. And I think I have learned to come back where because I've learned not to beat myself up when I fall. And I've learned to understand that falling is inevitable, but it's not fatal. So before, like at the start of my journey, when I'd fall, I'd beat myself up and I'd stay. So I would stay down for very, very long. Whereas now I'm like, okay, this is happening right now. And if I blink, I'll be like, tomorrow's a new day. So it's almost like I don't stay stuck in that place and beat myself up and set up camp there. I'm just like, okay, so I become very self-aware. I'll be like, what is it that has caused me to fall? So I will introspect first of all, and I'll be like, okay, I was feeling a certain way, or I was having self-worth issues, or I was dealing with, like I said, I'm breaking free from approval addiction. So maybe something happened where I felt, you know, like I wasn't seen or that I didn't matter, and that is why I went to seek comfort or whatever. So I'll deal with that and I'll be like, great, then tomorrow we continue. Or even if it takes a week, we continue. But it's that constantly getting back. I don't write myself off at any point. I constantly give myself second chances. I never write off this journey. Whereas with some people, they'll be like, you know what, I've fallen off the wagon, let's just burn it. It's useless, it doesn't work. For me, it's just, oh, well, that was a lesson learned, and I get right back on. And sometimes it takes a while to get back on, but I get back on and I continue along my, even though I'm a little bit bruised, just dust myself off. And the quicker I learn to do that, the the less I fall, first of all. And for me, falling is just a gift because it's a lesson, and it gives me additional resilience. But secondly, I see that now I rise a lot faster. There were times before where it would take months and months and months for me to rise. Now I can rise in a couple of days.
I like that. It's like victory isn't final and failure isn't fatal. There's not going to
Exactly.
be an insight. We're going to say, I've reached the goalpost now. I've done, woohoo me. But also when you fall down, it's a journey. But you have to get
Yeah,
up and dust yourself off. And yeah, you can
yeah.
feel bad about it. Absolutely cry if you feel the
Mm-hmm.
need to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because don't ignore your feelings. Don't
No.
ignore yourself. But tell people that you are struggling. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times, like you said, if you're battered and broken and beaten down, people will come to you and say, hey, it's like, can I give you a hand? And
Mm.
I think I've seen that a lot, actually, where
Yes.
when we if someone who claims to be perfect all the time falls down, then we basically jump on them and all kinds of things, right? But if someone who's
But they
constantly
jump on themselves.
yeah, but if they fall, then it's like, then a lot of people have this sort of attitude. It's like, yeah, look at you, Mr. Fancy Boy, or whatever, But I think if you've displayed that you were accepting of your flaws,
Mm.
acknowledge that you are a flawed person, a flawed creature right from the start, but you keep trying. And I think then if you fall down, people will flock to you to help you because you are one of us. I
Yes.
think that's sort of the mentality. That's just my thoughts on this.
Oh
But I
no,
think if
that is,
you continuously put other people down and you compare them to
yeah.
yourselves, or tell people how brilliant you are, all kinds of things, that sort of bravado. If you do fall, then people will want you to stay there. But if you've shown that you are vulnerable and you know really better or worse than anybody else, you're just still human,
Mm.
And I was talking to Brian Moore, and he said, it's like we're so focused on races, but we're the human race, and there's only one race of those, And I
Yes.
love that. And I think we
Yeah.
need to adopt that similar attitude when it comes to people and their addictions, We
Mm.
have to understand that addiction is a tricky thing.
Mm.
And I'm going to cut this from the tape, but this is just between me and you. I was addicted to
Okay.
painkillers, right? Um,
Yes.
and I understand addiction, and I'm so careful now about painkillers.
Mm.
Uh, it took 2 weeks to get 2 weeks of known painkillers, right? And your body goes through these withdrawal symptoms, and it's painful. It feels like you're going to goddamn die, right?
Mm.
It was the worst experience in my possible life, and I include being shot in that list. It was more difficult going through withdrawal than it was getting shot. Um,
Wow.
it's something, and here's the problem, right? I can avoid painkillers. You can't avoid food.
Yes.
It's
I,
ridiculous the way the world works.
I know. I know. And also, with most other addictions, not all. Um, the consequences of most other addictions aren't always visible, right? So I know personally a functioning alcoholic, they can go to work and those effects aren't visible. But
Mm.
with food addiction, it's very, very visible. It's I will gain large amounts of weight if I cannot break free and break through. So, on top of that, it's not just dealing with the shame element and already having to deal with an addiction. Most people are just like, really, come on, we all have to eat, like, get over it. And then on top of it, it's also got very physical implications. So now, because I speak about fitness and everything like that, people expect me to have a certain body, like, you should be look hot by now and that kind of stuff, completely, you know, overlooking the struggle and the journey and everything. But what you were talking about earlier is what you were saying about like how if you're vulnerable and you're open when you fall, people kind of flock to you and you kind of have a tribe of people who are rooting for you. That is very accurate. And you know what it is? Vulnerability is the thing that removes, like that hangman's noose that
Yes.
hangs over you when your shame is in secret, it finds its strength there. It really finds its strength in darkness. So the second you bring it out to the light, it's almost like that noose goes away. No one can hold anything against you because you've already shared it. Like, what you're going to do, share it. I've done that. And the second thing is, I kind of talk about it like, the boogeyman or the boogie monster.
Right.
When you movie or
The
and
unseen
kids are like,
monster under the bed.
exactly, there's a monster under the bed and that kind of stuff. And then they scream and they shout for their mom, and she comes, and all she does is switch on the lights, and then and the monster goes away. And I feel that that's the exact same thing that I do by sharing my story on social media. I'm just literally switching on the light, and the monster's gone away. So the very things that terrorize me in the darkness, and the very things, the creepy crawlies and that thing under my bed, all it means, all I need to do is switch on the light. And that's what vulnerability is for me. It's switching on the light and being like, guys, this is my struggle. I still emotionally eat, and I still have moments where I binge eat and my weight fluctuates. By now, I should have a banging body. I do not, because I'm still breaking free and I'm still struggling. And
I think a lot of guys are going to disagree with you on that one, Hermien. But I have found not so much stalking you, or maybe stalking you, in preparation for this interview, to sort of like find out where I could possibly lead this conversation. I've looked through your social media posts, your LinkedIn and so forth, to sort of like get a feel for where I can lead this conversation. And you are actually very open and vulnerable, and you expose yourself in a way that is very rare, because when you fall, you show it. When you rise, you show it. When you dance and you are victorious, you show it. But you never forget that there are bad days too, and I really love that because social media is a difficult beast.
Oh, yes.
And it's the shadow, is not the person, right? Because what we display on social media is not who we are personally. I used to feel like, why should I have a professional page on Facebook when who I am personally and who I am professionally don't really differ? Why should I have a page just for the business side? Because who I am in my business is who I am in private. But now I've found that it's, if you succeed on social media, there's a lot of people who devalue you. They declassify you as something less than worthy, or that you have no worth. And I've experienced that, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people have that same experience when they're going through an addiction. That it's a weakness. But you know what? And there's no words that's going to get people to understand that it's not so much a weakness, but it is the way you've fallen into a trap, right? And a trap that the world has designed to capture you, right? And you're not the only one. Millions of people around the world, whether they like to admit it or not, have fallen into the same trap, except they don't show it, right? But then also the problem is they don't learn from it. Where did you start? Just out of interest, right? Where did you start? Job-wise or career-wise? 6 years ago. Let's say 6-7 years ago. What were you doing?
Like, so are we speaking like as a speaker or as a fitness or
as what were you doing 7 years ago in your professional life or your personal life? Keep it PG.
Actually, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, before I embarked on this, I call it an adventure, really, because it's just,
I like that. Yeah.
Turbulent and exciting, and like, put on your seatbelt. But I was actually depressed, and I was not working. I was doing a lot of freelance work for people, more in marketing and in advertising. So I was doing a lot of that, and I just couldn't find my footing, and I felt very purposeless. I have known that I've wanted to be a professional speaker before I even knew what a professional speaker was.
Right. Yeah. That your reason for being, that call in your soul.
I remember, like, when I was 8 years old, like, our teacher, Miss Matthews, English teacher, she would always ask in class, like, whenever we were reading, she would ask, who wants to read the next paragraph? And my little 8-year-old hand would always be the first to shoot up, because I was just like, it brought me joy to be able to do that. And whenever, there was a school play and it was my turn to read a line, and then even in church, I used to do announcements. I used to live for those announcements. Like, sometimes I would like not go to church until it was my Sunday to do announcements, So I always knew, and so it was innate, but what I also knew, what I felt is I didn't have a story and I didn't have a message. And I didn't want to be one of those speakers who were just kind of throwing out feel good sentences and
Your
words.
typical
And
motivational speaker, you know, who charges
exactly,
you an extraordinary amount of money, gives
to
you the
tell you
sugar
that
rush,
you're
and sends you out
awesome.
the door.
Yes, exactly. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have a real story that would help people overcome limiting beliefs and break free and to really just live a better life. And but also that would help them not just for that moment when I was speaking, but they could carry it with them, you know. And I didn't have that. I really didn't up until 6 years ago. And I didn't know that by embarking on the fitness journey and by sharing that journey on social media in a vulnerable way, literally vulnerability became my competitive advantage. It literally did. So the one thing that everybody has considered weakness has become my competitive edge.
You've
And
turned your
it's the
weakness
one
into your
thing,
strength, or
yes,
what other people
it's
perceived as your
basically the
weakness.
one thing, yeah, it's the one thing that has opened the most doors for me. It's the one thing that people come back to hear me for, is because they know they're not going to get a watered down, perfect version of what happened. They're going to get the real ugly. I was in the arena with that giant. They know that they're going to hear the real stuff, and that is the stuff that they can relate to.
I
The
like what you
bloody
said,
in
because
the story.
like you said, right, and this is a Hermien quote: vulnerability is grit.
Yes,
It's bloody brilliant, and it's so true, because it's
yes,
raw, it's emotional,
yes,
it's unfiltered, and it's exposing you to the world. It's like the uh, a raw tooth nerve. It's
yes, yes,
grit. I like that.
yes.
It's
And not everybody wants to hear it.
but
And that's the other
people like the people don't want to challenge the
thing.
status quo. They don't want
Yeah.
to rock the boat, ruffle people's feathers.
Yes.
They
Yes.
want the sense and sensibility sort of life. They want to like, actually, I was speaking to someone a while back, one of my
Mm.
former colleagues as a teacher, and she said when she was growing up, people didn't dance. It's like they danced, but they weren't really allowed to touch because that was like sinful. It's like, you were allowed to
Mm.
touch when you dance. It's like, how the hell did you dance? It's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 they're not allowed to dance like that, because that's like, that's
Yeah.
that's so naughty. And it's like, now people are all kinds of things. And I thought to myself, that's so odd, because we take so much for granted, really. And I can't imagine a
Mm.
life where if you're vulnerable, you get attacked. But that's unfortunately how it goes now. I don't want to know that. I don't want to imagine that. But I think a lot of people are so fearful of getting, of not coming back from vulnerability,
Mm.
that
It
maybe they never
is.
start.
It's terrifying. It's terrifying because um so I told you when I went to go speak at the GSA convention,
Mm.
my speech was titled Speaking Naked. And that's basically the title of my keynote. It's called Speaking Naked because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're literally exposing yourself to people
It's
like
a
that.
window to your
And
heart. You can
yeah,
see everything that's going on. You can see me bleed. you know
exactly, exactly. So basically, what's Speaking Naked, and I actually just posted about this today, but Speaking Naked is about harnessing the power of emptying the proverbial pockets of shame. And that's basically what it is, because at the end of the day, the reason why most people don't want to share is because of the shame element. What will people think? How will it be received, right? And but once you do that, no weapon is left to harm you with, right? And this is what I wrote about. So I just said it's being open, transparent, and available for both judgment and praise. So basically, it's knowing that some people are going to love it and they're going to praise it, and other people are going to judge it because not everybody is ready to experience people's real. honest truth. Not everybody's ready for that. Some people are just like, you know what, can I get the abridged version of that, you know? And there's this quote that I love, and I do not know who said it, but it's not my own quote, but it says, if you live by their praise, you will die by their criticism. And I think that is
Right.
how, yeah, that is how I've been able to survive social media and sharing my story. I don't live for the praise. So that in the same breath, I can't, you know, the criticism doesn't kill me either, because it's almost like if you live for the one, the other one can kill you, right? But because I don't get a high from the praise, and I'm not looking for people to be like, yeah, you're awesome and that kind of stuff. I won't lie, I'm human. It is great if people affirm me. It is great if I see that people are responding positively to me, but it doesn't play on my self-worth, and I don't feel any type of way about about it. And I think that is how I survive sharing such a special part of my life, and sharing all of these things and the lessons on social media without falling apart.
I like that because there's a quote that I like by Terry Pratchett, who says
Mm.
that the same people who applaud at your coronation are the same people who's going to scream and cheer at your beheading. The same people who are full of praise when you get your crown are the
Yeah.
same people who's going to cheer when they lob off your
Oh
head.
yeah.
So
Oh
you
yeah.
can't, if who you are is what they perceive, then you really have no value. So you have to
Mm.
start finding value within and not
Yes.
live and die by somebody else's praise.
Cannot, do not live and die by their praise. And the thing is, unfortunately, and especially the way that social media is set up, you get a high from, gosh, 100 people liked your post, or that kind of stuff. So you really have to gauge it, and it's hard work. You have to be intentional, because you praise can corrupt you. I think it's Winston Churchill, no, Albert Einstein. He was the one who said the only way to survive the corruptible seed of praise is to keep on working. And I think I completely just butchered that quote, but basically what he's trying to say there is, praise can corrupt you. So when you do something great and you get that praise, it can literally corrupt you to the point where you get a high, and you get pride, and so he was like, the way to survive that, just keep on working, keep on doing what you do, keep on writing, keep on, instead of just being stuck on, you wrote this awesome article and the world is raving about it, just write the next one, create the next amazing work of art, and just keep
I've told
going.
so many people the exact same thing. I've got a friend who's written a book, and and he's so all about, I've written this book. It's like, that's nice. It's like, when's the next one? It's like, but I've written this book. It's like, yeah, I saw it, read it, nice stuff, good job, well done. What else? Are you just a one-trick pony? Are you a one-hit wonder? If you have to keep going. It's not enough to stay static. You can't stay still. You have to keep moving. And
Yes.
sometimes that means you're going to fall down, but it also means that you have the opportunity to learn from your mistakes. And what I, on a separate note, is that you are a voracious reader, right? I always see you reading one book after another, and I
Yes.
so enjoy that, because the amount of joy that I see you getting out of books,
Yes.
it makes me so happy that that's still something that happens.
Yes.
um, I wanted to be a librarian growing up, safe and secure in the library, but
Yeah.
you know how paths change, and you said yourself, 7 years ago, you wanted to be more, right?
Mm.
You knew that there was something inside of you, but you couldn't unlock it, and it wasn't because of the weight. uh, I'm sure that had an influence, but I think it was the mental capacity for accepting change. uh,
Mm.
that decision, right? That number one decision of I need to actually do something about this. Because I think, like you said in the beginning, when we talked about, the journey and things, the mental anguish of going through that is it's extraordinary. And making that decision, that can't be easy. Because we make the same decision every single day, but we never actually act on it.
Yeah. It's gosh, it is so not easy because every day I have to go against human nature,
Yeah.
right? And it's literally every single day. I, for the past 3 decades, have set myself up to believe that comfort is lying on the couch, eating, eating away, and now I basically my neural pathways, I have set them up to believe that when a situation arises that I cannot face, run, get and have food because food has a very numbing effect on me. It gives me comfort. It literally does. So now I have to go against that and go against that very grain and all those habits that I've learned and choose the harder, newer one. So it's not easy and sometimes it's terrifying, but it's just a matter of I'm saying no to this because I'm saying yes to something better.
Right. It's
And
playing the long
yeah,
game sort of a thing.
yes, it's literally end game. And quick fixes are very anti that. Quick
Mm.
fixes are like, you know what? Don't be too uncomfortable. Let's just make it short. Take this pill. Continue to do whatever you want to do, and just take this pill. So you don't have to be uncomfortable, and you don't have to go against human nature. Just pop the pill and drink the shake, and you're good to
But that's
go.
the culture we're living in now, right? The world is
Yeah.
designed for the pill popping,
Yes.
shake,
Yes.
shake drinking society,
Do nothing.
and
Nothing.
but it doesn't actually do anything, right? I mean,
Does
I'm absolutely
absolutely.
certain this, um, those things can work in addition to a healthy regimen and
Yes.
a regulated diet. But like I say, you have to
Yes.
fight human nature every single day. Because I'm
Yes.
thinking now, humans, we eat when we're happy, we eat when we're sad, we
Yes.
eat when we're bored.
Yes.
And it's so
Yes.
easy. We eat when
And
we're excited. And, I mean,
and
people,
just
when,
think, all of our celebrations are
yeah,
centered around food. Dinner with the family is
dinner with the
centered around
family,
food.
cake for
Weddings,
birthday, it's,
weddings, things, anything. All celebrations are centered around food. And that is my battle is one of the very things that our celebrations are rooted around and based on. And you go home to have dinner, first dates, dinner, like all the wonderful things
but
in
that's
life
true.
have food at the heart of them.
That's true, and it's something that I never thought of, but it's so true. We celebrate every single moment of our lives with food.
Mm-hmm.
Food is so in it's so I'm looking for the word now. Um, it's sneaky is what I want to say. I had a fancy
Mm-hmm.
word in mind, but I'm gonna go with sneaky because
Mm-hmm.
it's snuck into everything that we do. We
Yeah.
eat, we consume when we go to the movies. Then we have
Mm-hmm.
dinner before. We probably have dinner or like an early lunch. We've got
Mm-hmm.
brunch. It's like we've even had to invent a new meal between the two meals. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
And it is comforting and it does bring us joy. There is no, and the thing is, the reason why I don't demonize food at any part of my journey, I don't even demonize a food group. A lot of people will be like, carbs are the devil. I don't even think that. There's nothing wrong with carbs. What's unhealthy is not the food. What's unhealthy is my relationship with it.
right?
And that is what I'm working on, is fixing my relationship to it. There is nothing wrong with it. Food is, it brings us joy. It brings us joy. That's why, when people are like, when I think of like seafood at the tug, I'm like, wow, like it does bring me joy. It's just a matter of I just need to learn how to not basically abuse my relationship with it.
I think it's such a eye opener to hear that someone has to put in all these sort of barriers to stop
mm,
themselves. It's basically a self-protection automation
yeah,
system that I have to put into the. Uh, I can't imagine living like that all the time. But that must be what addicts have to go through, or people that have to go through this
and,
journey. It's always putting systems and checks and balances in place
yeah,
to
and
to
it's
help
controlling
them.
my environment. It's controlling. You know what? I'm going to. I think the easiest thing for me to give an example of, and so that people have good context, I guess, would be alcoholism, because I think that's one that is more common and
Mm,
more openly spoken about, and there's a lot of awareness around it. So with a recovering alcoholic, they understand that for the rest of their life, they have to be vigilant, right?
mm,
So they have to control their environment. And they know that if they're in a vulnerable time, or if they're going through, they're not going to walk into a bar and just sit there and have a hoop a lot. They'll probably stay away. So they'll control an environment. And they will also control their home environment to make sure that they're not bringing alcohol into the house. And it's almost like they need to set themselves up to win. It's the exact same way for me. I understand, and I just have to grasp the fact that this is the thorn in my side. I have to be vigilant for the rest of my life. This is my battle. This is my journey. I've accepted it. When it comes to food, I have to be vigilant for the rest of my life. It's very easy for me to slip back into those habits. It's very easy for me to seek out food when I'm looking for comfort. It's very easy for me to do that. So I have to set up measures. I have to control my environment. And it's not always, and it gets easier. That's why somebody who's been an alcoholic who's been alcohol free for 10 years, they can be around their friends who are drinking and not really feel anything. Yes, they know they have to be vigilant. They're not going to just throw back a tequila shot now because they're like, I've got this. They probably won't touch it. And it's the same way with me, where it gets easier with time, but the act of being vigilant doesn't stop me.
right.
Yeah.
But you basically, like I said, you have to outthink the world that's designed to trap you.
Yeah.
It's amazing the power of a human being, really. And
Mm,
you know because just this story or just this conversation has made
mm,
me reappreciate you in a new way. And
yeah.
because, and like you said in the beginning, you've spoken about being authentic, right? And vulnerability, and how those aren't the ends, but it's only a vehicle to make the connection with someone. And
Yes.
this is exactly what I think you've done. And I think anybody who's viewing this would agree that they've made a connection with you. They might never have met you, but because you were vulnerable, because you spoke openly and honestly and truly about what it actually means to
Mm,
live in a world that's designed to trap you every single step of the way, and how much mental strain it can be, and how big a journey it has to be to go through
mm,
this. But you're doing it, right?
yeah.
And yeah, you can fall sometimes, but you've got a wonderful tribe, like you said, that's willing to help you,
Yes.
because you aren't uh, the know-it-all, be-it-all, end of it all
Mm,
sort of person.
mm,
You're one of us. You're just as
mm,
flawed. You're
yes.
just as likely to stumble and to fall. And I think because you succeed, we succeed. And I think really that's the core of the African Ubuntu sort of thing. I
Yes.
am because we are. And
Exactly.
it's like that connection. Like I said, it's just vehicles for you to make the connection. It's not the end of
Exactly.
it, because that's not who you are. You're not the
Yeah.
vulnerable woman. You're not that person. But it's something that you have to go through to make the connection. And
Mm,
we were speaking earlier about enjoying things that might make us sad sometimes, and we have to rephrase the wording for
mm,
not um I was going to say, not victims, right? Because you're not a victim of it. You
Mm,
are a survivor,
yeah.
and this is a you have to play the long game.
Yes. Yes.
But look what you
And
got. But look where you've been, right? Well, look what you've done in six
yeah.
years. And 6 years is not a long time, mind you, right? You've
Yeah.
transformed yourself, not just physically, because that, I think, is the easy part, right?
Mm,
You've changed your entire mental attitude towards the world, towards life. You shaped a new destiny for yourself. You
yeah.
haven't even you haven't even just stepped into one career. You've changed the game, and you've opened up a new way of thinking for a lot of people. I think every time you
Mm,
share your journey, right, by using these vehicles of authenticity and vulnerability to make that connection, you've opened up a new perspective, because I've never thought of food addiction, right? I've never
mm,
actually, it's not something that I've come across.
yeah.
um I've
Most people don't
understood.
want to talk about it
Yeah, but no one talks
because
about it. But it's like, just even
vulnerability is weakness.
recently,
Yeah.
one of the stars of my favorite TV program, Doctor Who, spoke about being bulimic. You know, during the entire time he was doing the filming for those TV series. I thought to myself, wow, having to go through that and then be productive is such an amazing feat.
It is. It is. And just, I mean, that just goes to show because I haven't personally watched Doctor Who, but my best friend is a huge fan of Doctor Who. So so I get it, and I understand that he's apparently quite a big deal. So if if somebody of that magnitude and somebody who brings so many people so much joy through that
Yeah.
show is struggling with something like that, we have to understand there are a lot of people struggling in silence. And my vulnerability, sorry
Who's
about that.
dying? Spread away from fire.
Yeah, people are out here celebrating stuff. So what I have learned is that is that still in the background? Okay,
No, it's
it's
clear
fine.
now.
Okay. So one thing that I have learned is this: vulnerability begets vulnerability. And because I've been vulnerable, a lot of people have opened up and shared a lot of their monsters under the bed with me. And though they don't share it publicly, they share it with me because there's something about vulnerability that when you're vulnerable, in turn, people feel free to be vulnerable with you as well, right? And what I am learning is this: everybody is fighting something, and everybody struggles with something, no matter how strong they look, no matter how brave they look. Some people maybe just have a better handle on the things that they struggle with, but the struggle is real for everybody. And I think that by being the kind of speaker and having the kind of message that is authentic, real, and very, very raw, I give other people almost like, it's just that thing of you're not alone and that you can be an overcomer and you can be victorious while falling a heck of a lot and making a lot of mistakes. And you can do all of this imperfectly. You can literally win while falling continuously. And that, I think, ultimately is what my message is. And I think a lot more of world leaders and top thinkers, they're actually also starting to speak more about failing and failing forwards and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas in the past, you were always hearing these perfect and I got it together and I just stood up and I did this. People are actually like, but it was hard and I'm messing up and fading forwards, and you'll see like celebrities, they're starting to speak up. They talk about their depression and they're talking about their real struggles. And you have a lot of celebrities talking about their eating disorders and all of these kind of things because I think we're now in a time where the world allows you to be a lot braver, and where bravery, that kind of bravery, the vulnerable kind, is no longer a shock to the system or like, oh my gosh, don't tell people that, you know. Now it's I think it's celebrated a lot more. And I feel like we're moving to a time where the people who are vulnerable aren't going to be the exception. I think they're going to be the rule. And I think it's growing, and I think it's beautiful because ultimately, I wrote on Facebook the other day, I said storytelling is a legitimate superpower, and honest, real, and authentic stories have the power to change the world. And that's really it. When you give other people your real, honest, raw story, they walk away feeling like, you know what? My goodness, like if she can do this, in spite and despite every single thing that she faces and those countless times that she falls, then I can do it too. That's literally it. So, like I said, when I remember there was always a saying that says, "Don't meet your heroes," right? Because and I think the basis for that saying or for that quote was when you actually come face to face with your heroes, you'll see their flaws and all of that kind of stuff and you'll be disappointed. I'm actually like, meet your heroes, see their flaws and see their mistakes and everything like that, because then you can see that you can totally be heroic while being a total mess at the same time. So, and I think that's why I'll continue to just be vulnerable. And sometimes I don't want to. Sometimes I also want to look like I've got it together. And sometimes I also want to look like maybe I can be perfect if I try. And sometimes I
But
want
then
to
you
look
wouldn't
like,
be authentically you, would you?
exactly,
And then you'd
So
lose the entire purpose of what you were trying to
exactly,
accomplish.
exactly. So I never will. But sometimes I want to be like, hey, I also want to look like I've got it together sometimes, just so that I can, cut myself some slack. But nah, it's never gonna happen.
I think that's a wonderful way to end this conversation. Is
Yeah,
about you going to struggle. It's
yeah,
there's no way past it, right? But you don't have to do it alone. You have
yeah,
to surround yourself with people who are in your corner. Team Hermien.
mm,
And whatever you do, don't let your vulnerabilities define who you are.
yeah,
Use it as a vehicle, as a tool to help you get to the next stage. And I
exactly.
think that's the wonderful takeaway here is that, yeah, vulnerability is grit. It's raw. It's honest. It's uncomfortable,
Mm,
but you'll be the better for it if you start sharing.
mm.
And you'll
And
find that a lot of people will flock to you to help you along the way.
yeah, and sorry if I can just get one more word in here. And it's not just that you'll be the better for it. The world will be the better for it
The world will
because
be the better for it.
um, yeah, because here's the thing, we are hardwired for connection. And there is a lot of science to back this up. We are hardwired for connection. That's why we have communities and families and friendships. And our connections are forged and almost we're bound together by our stories. And if our stories are real and if they're authentic and if they're vulnerable, our connections are stronger and they're truer. And the second we have those, we can go out into the world and really, really change it. Because then our superpower isn't make believe. It's not like in the movies. It's a real superpower. That's why I love being a professional speaker because I know that my voice makes an impact and it makes a difference. And my true and honest and authentic voice, it's unmatched. And telling a pretend story is nice, and it's nice for kids to go to sleep to. But telling a real one, that's power.
I think, yes, the real story, because it's rather to have a harsh truth than a wonderful
Mm,
lie.
yes,
Because at least you can do something with the truth. You can't do anything with the lie.
exactly.
You can change the truth to become a better truth, but a lie
Mm,
still remains a lie. It doesn't matter how much you rework it.
correct.
And I think that's where we're going to end off. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you are listening to this on SoundCloud or Podbean or anywhere else, drop a comment and ask a question. What is your superpower? Are you authentic? Can you show vulnerability? Have you decided to make a change in your life, and what are you trying to go through, and do you need a team, and have you got a team? So leave a comment, leave a suggestion, or contact Hermien on one of her social media platforms, and I'm absolutely certain that she will be happy to start a conversation with you and help you move up in life and not just on with it. Hermien, thank you so much for joining me on Imagineering. We've taken a bit more time of you than I should have, but it's such a wonderful conversation that I didn't want it to end. But yeah, so thank you for coming.
For having me, Brandt.
And this is blah 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 blah. This is Imagineering. I'm gonna keep it in. Screw it. I'm gonna keep it in. This is blah 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 blah. Imagineering signing off. See you next time.